This is a functional demonstration of the Rhythm Ace FR-6. This is also known as an Ace Tone FR-6. Ace Tone was the precursor to the Roland Corporation. So, this was made in Japan, and it's basically a Roland early 70s drum machine. Sounds quite nice. It's open right now because it needed a little cleaning. The balance pot was scratchy. This cuts in or out the cymbals and the bass. And the selector here, which selects different patterns depending on which of these two switches are depressed, was not selecting. It was basically just playing a basic beat and not playing the indicated beat. So again, cleaning both of these has resolved the problem. Now I have it set on this beat just because this is kind of cool, and it shows off that you can have, you know, the 2-beat in and the mambo and the big green. I mean, you can combine whatever you want. Right? So here's cha-cha. Just plain straight up cha-cha. Okay? And now maybe I want cha-cha with, I don't know, rock and roll. Now I got a rock and roll cha-cha. Can make it faster. Can make it slower. No cymbals. Bring the cymbals back in. Now let's just see what it can do. Waltz. Slow rock. Ballad. There's a slight difference between slow rock and ballad. Not much. Rock and roll. Now the instruments, the voices inside this drum machine. It has the high conga, a low conga, a bass drum, a snare drum, a rim shot, clavs, cymbal, and maraca. Now we're just going to listen to the 4-beat. Take it through its different paces. Just enough to hear that it is different. Now the 2-beat. It's really just the 4 at half the tempo. With some changes on the others. So the swings are different. Then it has the march. Habanero. Habanero. Habanera. There we go. Come on, stay in. I saw somebody doing the... That's right. This is a cool one. There we go. So there's a lot of extra flexibility, especially when you get into combining these beats. It's just neat. It's just fun. You hear that swing background now. Start and stop. There's also a remote start and stop switch on the back. It's just a switch. So, well, it's a socket for a switch box. Now this is the high impedance output. That's the one that sounds good with an amp. The low impedance output, I don't know what that's supposed to sound good with. It's got a little background noise over an amp at least, so I probably have the wrong impedance. Fused power supply, that's useful. Gosh, you can tune this thing. If you want to change the frequency and the duration of like the conga, you can open this up and adjust these trimmers. That's kind of interesting. And then there's amp trimmers, and I think those will adjust the individual volume of the voices if you want to mess around with it. Now, if you want to get really crazy and hook up a Tubutech or Tubutech Unipulse MIDI controller, so cymbal, maraca, snare drum, rim shot, cloves, bass drum, low conga, high conga. You just solder the Unipulse connections into those locations for the respective instruments, and you can make this MIDI controlled. It won't sound exactly the same. You might not notice it, but it won't sound the same because the pulses being generated by the control circuitry in this, they're being generated by its control circuitry, right? This analog circuitry, where the Unipulse is creating a digital version of the pulses, which is an approximation of them that works with lots of drum machines and makes them sound pretty good and controllable. Other than that, what can I tell you? I was thinking that maybe a filter would be cool to add to this, but you can do that externally. The only other thing would be syncing it, but this uses a PPQ, pulses per quarter note, internal circuitry. So you need to be able to send a really fast pulse into it, into the right spot in order to take over the tempo. So you can't just plug in a regular, trigger sync from a drum machine and expect it to work right. You'd need a PPQ signal from an external source. I've been thinking about that, so I still may think about that a little more. But right now, this thing plays great, looks great, it's all cleaned up. The button grime is gone. Like I said, I cleaned the knobs, I cleaned the potentiometer and the big wafer switch back here. So, man, it's a good sounding drum machine.